Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. We have a very special guest on today. The master of hair is gone. He had to go get some hair transplants. I don't know when he'll be back. I think he's in Turkey. You guys didn't know. The master of the hair, it's all toupee. So Jason had to go get it. He's going to Turkey. Him and Jen are taking another trip for about 3 months. He'll be back eventually. Who knows what happens? My name is Stratton Brown, a.k.a. Strat Daddy. We've scaled 2 different companies to 7 figures. We have a 7-figure real estate portfolio, and we are documenting netting 7 figures in 6 months. We will not hit that number, but we have learned a whole bunch of stuff along the way, doing it all on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We have Captain America, Mr. Dean Rogers, here with us today.
What's up, guys? Dean Rogers, your other co-host. Guys, I started my career in the NFL, then transitioned to corporate, then into real estate. Been investing in real estate for a decade now in Central California. We are very close to doing 700 deals. We're inching along. We're very close to hitting that 8-figure rental portfolio and coaching students how to get started in real estate. With wholesaling, you guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com.
RJ, are you Filipino?
I am. Are you?
No, I'm not Filipino.
Okay. You never know.
I'm not Filipino. You never know, but I was trying to come up with a cool nickname for you. So we'll call you the world's sexiest Filipino, yes. Mr. RJ Pepino.
Yes, sir. Here we go.
Let's go.
Love that.
Give a quick intro of yourself.
Thanks for having me on here. I mean, based on your accolades, I'm just a small little fish and swimming in your pond, guys. Been investing in real estate since 2009. My business partner and I started out wholesaling. Then we had a turnkey business. If you guys don't know what turnkey is, it's doing all the work for investors out in California, buying all our rentals here in Ohio. And we did that for about 5 years and looked down at what we were doing. And we were like, God, Lee, we need to keep these suckers. So we figured out a way how to do that. We teach that now to our community, our students. Got about 300 in our portfolio and just Midwest guys that love Ohio, OH, and I do real estate and now teach it. So family men, got 2 kids. That keeps us super busy right now because they're 4 and 2, and he's got a couple twins. So he's got his hands full too, but I'm happy to be on here.
A couple twins, like 2 sets of twins.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's the rarest form of twins. They're in the same sack. These twins are in the same sack, right? And they're sharing the the umbilical cord. Like it's the same deal. Sharing the same thing. So most they have their own sack, right? They're kind of separated. So they're I've learned a lot about this because he's always talking about it now, but Momo twins is what they're called. So he had them early. They were premature, and that was 2000, and that was a couple years ago. All going through that journey with him, and he's just became an instant data too. So that's crazy. I had a little bit of time in between mine.
Yeah.
Ace and Leone, but that's what we've been up to, y'all. And I connected with Dean. I actually connected with you back in the day at an event with Mark.
And with Mark, and this was like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, and then that was
it was at his event in Cleveland.
And then I started seeing this kind of pop up in my feed. So I'm happy to be on here, guys. What?
Bro, do you wish you would have started a fund?
What's that?
I talked to Mark about this. He was like, I should have started a fund when I was selling stupid turnkeys, and I should have just raised all the money, and we should have gave all those investors just a return, and we should have bought all those houses and kept them in a fund, and I'd be worth $100 million. That was what his feedback was on his turnkey stuff. He was like, everybody was doing it wrong.
What's that, Dean?
I said, how much harder do you think that is, though, like to actually raise the money to take the deals down by yourself and just everybody wins off of it, but you're the owner at the end of the day, right, of all the property and have the majority, if not, most of
it's a debt fund though. So like they just know where the money's going into, right? Yeah. And then you're like, hey, here's our fund. we're just going and buying as much stuff as we can.
You think it's easier to do that because you're probably raising local money at first to start? They're like, yeah, these are average deals. Then you're looking outside, but versus what RJ was doing. Hey, California, look, we're getting a high cash on cash return out here. Come check us out, and then just selling the deals to Californians.
I'd love to hear your feedback.
I did not start the fund. We thought that starting a fund was super complicated, and hindsight of this, because we see a lot of people that got involved in funds. Not going to mention which ones, and it's so hard for our current money lenders, private money lenders, to get out of certain funds because they're tied up. Some of them went to bunk, and now they're chasing the guys, and the guys are, in
really
just luck. Yeah, it's crazy. So we never did that. Although it was always when we went to these groups where we were selling to, all the fund guys would be like, guys, why are you doing this? It's a lot harder, And so we were almost to the point of doing that because of the deal volume, 15 to 20 a month. It was like, damn, like we were selling these before they were even done, and that's everybody in California and all of the aggregators. There's turnkey aggregators out there. All they do is sell Midwest cash flow and cash return, and the loans were out there. Interest rates were low, and it was just gangbusters. But I'm so glad that we never did that. It was always just one investor at a time on a property. And there was a lot of administrative stuff on the back end with, transaction coordinating and making sure all the paperwork is fine, like everything like that. But we didn't do the fund. And we probably lost out on a lot more deal flow from that. But we just never did it.
What was your margin on something like that?
So a turnkey rental back then was from 2013 to 2015 and 16. You could probably get net after you pay all your lenders and you didn't go over your construction budget. Guys, that was the killer. The construction budget was 15 to maybe 17. Right? 15 to 17.
Okay. But in Ohio, that's good because you're not really going to make that much on a wholesale out there at that time.
No, yeah, you're right. So our average house price point where we play anymore is, 150 to 250. And so you take 10% of that, and that's your assignment fee. You're getting some really good assignment fees if you're at, in the 250 range, right? But those deals are harder to get anymore. But back then, our turnkey rental all day long that we were buying and flip, like the margins from a 90 ARV to 90 to 150 ARV with rents of 900 to 1,300. Those were the margins then. And then slowly but surely, it was harder and harder to get that 13 to 15K, 15, then from 15 to 17 to 13 to 15. Then it was, 10 to 12. And then boom. That's when it started to suck. You're selling these, doing all the work, and you're looking down. You're like, "Damn, that's $7,500. That didn't even cover the marketing spend."
Right.
Cost per deal is $2,000. It's like we got to work a lot harder to make. It's like no, we gotta. So we made a pivot, and we just said, "Hey, we'll take care of all the clients that we had, and we still do." Because we still have clients, and I see them, they're getting sold. We hooked them up with a solid property management company that's selling them at amazing returns. These things are now worth, closer to 200, and they bought them for 120 to 150. So that they exit out of that.
They cash flowed.
And they cash flowed, and they got all the upside, tax benefits probably, and they're moving on to something else, And so we're like, we got to do this for ourselves. We got to be able to take that small little margin and wholesale the deal to ourselves, which you guys probably know what to do now. It's like you keep that. Your acquisition gets paid. Your acquisition company gets paid to buy the rental, and that's what we do. That's what we do. It's kind of like big commercial deals, and you see all these acquisition fees. You can do that in residential. You can do that on fix and flip deals, as long as your lenders are okay with it.
So what's the benefit of doing that? Because I've talked to some other lenders before, and that's one of the strategies they had told me. Hey, have your active business be the one that gets it under contract and assign it to your rental company for a fee, right? And then you'll get the financing in place to buy that as a rental. What's the purpose of doing that versus just, hey, it's the same business owners, so I'll just buy it at a lower price with my rental property?
Yeah, so really it's we call it the pay yourself first method. So just like you profit first, right? Great book. You want to pay yourself first, right? Talks about that. Your acquisitions company, if you're doing this at scale, you probably have some employees. And so you have marketing going out every month. That's a cost of doing business. You got to eat as a business owner. You can't just starve until 90 to 120 days until after the fact you do something. Even the wholesale deals, they take about 30 to 45 days. Novations take 45 to 60 days. So, if you want to do this as a living full time, you're invested in this, take a little bit of that profit up front to pay not only yourself, but your staff, keep the lights on, keep the marketing on. That's the strategy, because you talk to a lot of people and you're like, well, I got to continue to flip, and you get stuck in that new real estate rat race, which is flipping all the time.
Exactly, bro. One of my friends was in this. I was like, bro, you got to stop. You have to stop, because you start chasing the money with good money, and then it never ends. You're trying to catch up on projects because this project didn't go well, so now we got to sell this one. Now we got to get this other one to the finish line. To where I was like, bro, you just got to stop it, cut it off, wholesale some of those things off, pay yourself on some other ones, and then you can catch back up again. But if you continue to flip, it's just going to be a never-ending cycle of just chaos.
It got chaotic. That's what happened in our turnkey business. So finally, I had to have the hard talk with, my business partner. And we're like, we're working so freaking hard and giving this away. Everybody's getting rich, but the ones that are working really hard. It's like, why don't we figure out a way how we structure this thing to start keeping and slowly get out of this hamster wheel, and that's what we did. And we haven't done, we still have those relationships. So if we got a round that we want to sell them, that we want to prune from the portfolio, we'll just sell them, so, but you get caught up with that, man. And that's it's dangerous. You think you're making even 7,500, but you didn't look in your budget for the rehab and how much overages that you had. So really, you may broke even or you're in the negative.
Yeah, that was us. We were stuck there for years, working our butts off, but really weren't making that much money. Part of it was our lack of strength of having a good system and process that we went through, and our training around negotiating the deal. Like, we were just heavily focused on getting a deal as opposed to getting the best and greatest deal. And if you've got big, massive margins on a deal, well, then, you want to flip as many as you can and maximize the profit. But we were just running that hamster wheel, getting really nowhere. And when you actually stop and see what's going on, then you realize, oh, we got to change something. So I want to take a step back real quick and get into your past. Bunch of sports guys on the podcast here today. So you were a former D1 athlete in tennis. What was that like? I obviously talk with a lot of football guys, basketball guys, occasionally some baseball guys, but not too often tennis. I love tennis.
Sam Singh is a tennis guy. He played football tennis at Fresno State.
Okay. So tell us about your experience with that.
It was an amazing experience. The best tennis I've ever played. Junior year, Youngstown State. I played against the number one player from Ohio State, Jeremy Wertzman. If you are listening to this, you took my best ball and just totally redirected it and made me on the run. I took my offensive ball and he would just take it to the corner. I was on the run and I was on defensive.
Really?
Just like that. Anyways, he was probably the best tennis player I played in my collegiate. I mean, he was number one. But that experience, 2000 to 2005, was amazing. Like, that was my life. I was waking up, training, practice sets, going back to the gym, eating, training, practice, and that was it. And then weekends we'd have matches. Sometimes we'd go and do the regional tournaments and stuff like that. We were in the Horizon League at that point. I that was my ticket, guys. That was like that's all I knew back then, because I wasn't introduced to Rich Dad Poor Dad until after all that. And I really wanted to take it to the next level, and the only way to do that you go from college, then you go to they call it the satellites or challengers. So there's futures now, they call it futures and challengers, and you got to get points to get to the big events
on tour or whatever.
Yeah, like there's a San Diego
like golf.
That's huge. There's one in Ohio that's called Western Southern Financial. So it's just you gotta grind it out, man. And because in the NCAAs, if you do really well and you win it, then you get a wild card into the U.S. Open. And then if you just if you happen to do really well there, everybody's good. Everyone's hitting amazing backhands, amazing serves, forehands, fast, like can run for days, all the energy in the world.
Yeah.
But it's this that separates the champs. It's this, it's the grit, it's the handling the tough moments. That's what I learned. Obviously, I didn't have any money, man. I didn't have any money. I had, my family was middle class. They worked all kinds of jobs to even get me through a solid high school. And I just didn't have to. You need to have sponsors. You need to be good enough even to attract the sponsors, or be funded by your family and saying, hey, look, we're taking this seriously. This is what you're going to be for the next 5 to 10 years. This is it.
How long is no man's land typically if you come out of college? Like baseball, what is it, 5 years for most of these dudes to make it out? In football, if you don't make it to the league year one, you're essentially never going to play in the NFL.
Pretty darn tough, yeah.
You can go to Canada and it's a cold chance in hell that you make it back over. Golf, same thing. Like you'll go and you'll be on like a circuit for a while. I was talking to a girl who she played at Fresno State while I was there. And she's like in the semi circuit, same thing you're talking about, but in the golf world, where you got to still break up into the big boy tournaments if you really want to get on there. But it's still like, we've been graduated for 4 years.
So how much are they making though in the kind of like the
she's not making a ton of money. I didn't hey, so what's your revenue, bro? Like how much are you making? I didn't really pin her, but sure, sponsors cover everything, but it's not like I'm rich.
Yeah,
it's just like I travel every weekend and all I do is golf.
Yeah. And then once you make to that stage, you can finish in the top 50 and walk out with, a couple thousand racks and you're all right. You're just like, all right, I'm okay. I can make a living. But in tennis, man, these are like the challenger tournaments. You walk out maybe with $2,000 to $3,000, and you just played guys that are hungry,
unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Hungry guy, South America guys. They're playing all the time. Everybody. That's why you go down to Florida, because you can play all the time outside.
That's true.
Good, and you can just play all the time. But it's. I think if you look at like Alcaraz and you look at Sinner, they started with funding way back in the juniors, way back when they were 12, 14, 15, and then it was like life for them there. For me, that was like high school. I didn't even want to play. I was just like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta wake up at 5. That's how I did it, because we weren't. You kind of have to have the money to go and play in. You see the story of the Williams sisters. They're out
from birth.
Yeah, they were just out, just hitting tennis balls. Dad was all about it, and we were kind of following that same thing. We were up hitting in 30 to 40 degree weather, just just getting hitting time in 5 o'clock in the morning, doing what we could and hitting all the time and going out to these tournaments, just regionally. And then we were in the Midwest section. Okay. So every weekend was a tournament, but I didn't really peak until probably like I was 16, 17. Most of these guys, like
everyone's already assigned. Like everybody already has a scholarship. Everybody has sponsors.
They're beating people on the pro tour when they're 14 and 15 years old. That's insane. Like I'm trying to figure out how to win against guys in my age group, not people on the tour. So they started like they're already working it when they're 4, 5, 6, and 7, and kicking ass. So I mean,
from your network playing tennis, have you raised a lot of money because it's a money sport or no? From like your tennis network.
Now in the last 5 years, yes, but before that, it wasn't. And the reason was because I really I didn't want to play tennis. I was so burned out. Like tennis was not a thing anymore. Like it was just like, oh, it was my past life. And I recently got back into it. Like I'm in a league. I gotta after we do this show, I'm gonna go kick some ass in a practice set with like a couple other guys. Right? Like
does that like recharge you and refuel you like when you're back in the sport and stuff? You feel good?
Dude, yeah. I'm all into it. Like look, if you look at my feed, it's all tennis, all positive, all
I was looking at it,
like it is legit what I'm into. And I'm I'm signing up for their signing up for some funnel, some guys like coaching, like here's the playbook on doubles. I play a lot of doubles now.
But let's go.
Like I'm into it. Like I'm so into it. And I'm in these leagues. I want to go all the way. I don't even know if I don't even care. I know that I can still hit my peak, even though I'm a little bit slower, but now I'm a little bit more efficient in what I can do. You get a little smarter, right? Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I used to be able to now I'm going to grind, but no, I need to like step up, hit the ball, come to the net, put it away. And that's what I got to do now, but totally into tennis. Tennis is like, you got to play sports. I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs that I know have some sort of discipline and some sort of sports that they used to play. All the ones that I know, it's football, it's basketball, it's baseball, it's tennis. It like instills like that. You got to work your ass off. Like it's hard. It's hard.
Well, address this comment after this, Dean, because it's kind of backwards. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna pull into what you were saying there, which is I see a lot of people who had good discipline and structure growing up, a lot of times through sports, will carry through forward really well with business. And some people had to figure out that discipline on their own, or they just hustled their way through it until they finally developed the skills, or they had them as a result of being a part of sports. So I just wanted to bring that in because I always love talking about sports. I love hearing people being passionate about sports, whether it's the same ones that I played or different ones. I've definitely gotten more of an appreciation for other sports like golf and tennis and sports I didn't play growing up, but I liked and would occasionally play. So I think it's cool just to talk about it.
And Dean wants to be in the NFL again so bad he runs hills every day. Legitimately, he sends these videos to the Chargers of him running up hills, towing his children on a wagon. I'm ready, boys. I'm ready.
No, I still run hills because I want to know that, I still got it. I can still run a hill. I'm not out of breath. My legs are ready to go when needed, right? Because my biggest fear, and this is a legit actual fear to share out loud, my biggest fear is that in a time of need, my family needs me. There's some emergency that I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't sprint. I can't go help you and save you right now because my legs just aren't ready. So like, I want my legs to be ready, and running sprints, your legs got to be ready,
Yeah, so, dude, yeah. Dude,
when I get Strat out to golf cart chats, which is one of my podcast segments, he's going to be running hills with me. So
he says that, and bro, I almost threw up at hot yoga today. I was like 30 minutes.
Yes.
I was 30 minutes into it, just like
that is what I'm looking for, dude. I can't wait for you to just
throw up in hot yoga though. It's like 100 and something degrees.
It was so I thought I was in it, bro. I thought I was doing good.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The first 15 to 20 minutes, I sweat so much. Like I sweat so much, man, that like it's 3 to 5 pounds I'm losing at every like intense workout. So after tennis, I'm like a buck 45, buck 50, and I'm like, I need to put some freaking weight on, you know? So I got into CrossFit. So CrossFit kind of took those years. I kind of said no to tennis, got into CrossFit, bulked up a little bit, you know, I'm 5'7" on a good day. And like, but now I'm like 175, but like all that weight you carry on, you kind of like get strong legs. But when I'm super dehydrated, the legs go out first and my calves just like, like just squeeze up. I got some big calves. And, you know, so when I'm in the hot yoga, like, how can you not just pass out? It's so hot. You're sweating so much.
I don't think Dean could handle it. He's talking shit saying he runs hills. I don't think he could handle it at all. He'd be in there. Can you touch your toes, Dean?
I can touch my toes. It'll take me a little bit to get there. It won't be just instantly. That's the one thing I want to work on. I need to work on the most is flexibility, because I know how important it is. But my dad's actually becoming a yoga instructor right now. He's heavy into it. And he's pushing me on it. He's like, dude, you got to get on it. But hey, just a transition.
I got some real estate questions real quick.
I got real estate questions real quick.
Okay.
All right, let me transition this one, and then we'll both hit with the real estate. So naturally, right, real estate business owner, you went through some probably hard years trying to figure stuff out, making mistakes and all that stuff. When did you feel like you made it?
When I found out about Burr and actually went through the Burr deal. And this was back, oh God, this was probably when we made the shift where like Dave and I were like, hey, we got to keep these ourselves and not give this away. And the biggest Burr deal that we had, it was a portfolio of properties, 10 properties. And out of that, the cash out was, I think, $379 something odd $1,000. And we were looking at it and saying, okay, so we did this, we get to keep the properties and they're all cash flowing. And so now we have this big chunk of, you know, money. It's like, let's do this again. You know, let's roll with this. Like, this is real. Like, we've seen this, it happened. You know, we heard about it before, but that first Burr deal and that first wire came out of that's when it was like, all right, we've got something here. We made the right move. Let's do this again. And we never looked back. That was like after like doing the first wholesale deal, after fix and flipping and, you know, doing all this stuff with the turnkey business, that was the moment of like, all right, we've got something here. This is, you know, we can build on this and not look back. So that was one of the biggest aha moments for us, and also a pivotal, you know, moment in our business as for Dave and I. So
okay. So I got a couple questions. So did I see a 500K refinance on one of your stories, or was it that 300K refinance? I was like, there's no way he got that from a fucking single family house in Columbus, Ohio.
That was a portfolio.
So it was a portfolio.
Yeah, we do. You know, blocks of like 10 or 20, or, you know, we package them up and do those big cash out refinances like that. Yeah. So that was probably from that.
One of those.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Families, man.
What's your cash management like? I have another friend who's out in Columbus. You know him. And he's like, bro, with singles, you can't go raise more money, and you need to be able to manage your cash very well, because the turnover will cost you 30K. It was like, one of those turnovers hits 30K. If you aren't keeping like cash flush, you're going to be sitting there like, hey, I can't turn it over. People aren't even paying our rents, and you can go to a cash crunch really, really fast.
Yeah.
So like, what are you thinking about as far as like, hey, I need to keep X amount of dollars, like a couple months worth of debt payments on hand, no matter what? And then like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I say 6 months of reserves in your per rental to unexpected costs. And when you rehab it starts from the rehab. You got to rehab these things with that in mind. Like, okay, I want to put our, LVP floors. We started doing granite now, Number one, because it lasts, and number two, it also helps with your appraisal number. But you want to, yeah, I think 6 months minimum in your cash reserves before you even start even considering taking any disbursements out of that, and then keep that always in your account so that you don't run into this unexpected, oh, they that's not covered under insurance, because insurance is another scam. But it's like you need to have that when you have a move out, a furnace that, you know, went out all of a sudden, even though it was new, or anything. Like even new things that you do in your rehab, they will break. We're dealing with people. So absolutely, whoever you talk to, probably Terry, is our mutual
It's two
friend.
sums. Yeah.
It's totally true.
So you have a very active real estate business to help keep active income and more revenue coming in to help with surprises?
Yeah, we do. We still wholesale and novate. We still do that.
Yeah.
It's a smaller team and very strategic, spend on marketing. We do a lot of deals now with our students, and that's helping us too. So yeah, you still got to keep that going. And then when you find something that makes sense to keep, do our method so that you can keep it and not have to, adjust and, hang on to everything until. So Terry and I joke around. It's like, oh, you get that refi yet? I'm hanging on to everything because I need the refi to go through. But that's the truth. Like, you're waiting for properties to sell. You got this refi coming in. You got to keep the reserves in the bank. You got to be a good steward of money. Otherwise, it'll come and bite you.
And the bank's looking at you with a fucking microscope too when you go to get that refi, and they want to see, hey, do we have all this money in the bank? What is your actual net worth? Can you sign off on this loan? Because you're doing big boy blanket loans, right? So you're taking packages of them, and it's not just like, yeah, you can qualify for this one house.
Yeah, it's like you gotta show your reserves in the accounts, or else you won't qualify for certain loans. DSCR loans, they'll take a look at your property, but they also want to make sure that you'll be able to cover their loan payments. So yeah, it's super important, man. Like, they think that, oh, you got the rent checks and they're coming in, and you got all this cash flow coming in, and you're living high on the hog. No, it's a long-term play. You got to keep that in the account. Make sure you have some sort of active income right now. So the blend for us is we're doing marketing, which a lot of it is PPC and PPL. We just started thinking about going back and doing a small niche campaign on direct mail. But in the heyday, we were doing TV, direct mail, cold calling, text. Like, it was too much. So we just simplified it, which what that means is we cut the most expensive overhead that wasn't produced. You got to be tracking all that. And if it's not working, you got to track. And if it's not working, have the boss just cut it and then adjust and be, a little bit more lean. So we've leaned out quite a bit in the last three years. And so that's just a little bit of what we've done. But to answer your question, Stratton, you gotta keep that rent money in cash reserves to make sure that when something happens and there are 12 or 24 months is up, you can cover that turn.
Do you even take disbursements from your portfolio? We only own a couple. We don't take disbursements. I know Dean doesn't really take disbursements.
None.
Not from the rental income. We will take some on like refinances, but we're putting that back right into the piggy bank. But sometimes if we, that's why the single family play is good, because you can say, okay, well, hey, we got these coming up. Let's take this house and go sell it, and then reap the rewards of that equity in the house, right? We call it the of the rental. It's harder to do that with apartments because you can't sell a building in 35 to 45 days unless you have that buyer database. But damn well, if you're selling a apartment, it takes longer. It's like 4 to 5, 6 months, sometimes longer.
We're trying to sell one right now, and it's taken way longer than I thought it would.
Yeah,
and it's like a solid deal.
Yeah, you can't just like quickly sell multifamily. So it's good to have a little bit of both, which we do, and we like the singles because we got a lot, and you can sell some if you want. And then make room for some multifamily, or if you got these expenses, oh shit, that happened. Okay, let's cover it, but needs a little bit more. And then we look at the rental and, look at the P&L on a certain property. And if it makes sense to sell it for this thing that happened, we all have fires in the business, then we'll do it. And that's the beauty of having both, because you have the flexibility. You can sell a house, harvest the equity, pay off some expenses. So,
and are you going for an infinite return with all your birds, right? Like all money out, and then how much money a month? Are you like, hey, if it's not making 300, 400 a month after expenses, I don't want to do it?
Yeah, ours anymore, because it's a little bit harder we're a little stricter. We haven't, in the last 60 days, there's only one that I think we're going to keep. The rest we're just going to wholesale renovate. It's just a little harder. Everyone knows about Columbus. Everyone's finding out, and then you got all the wholesalers that are pushing also do fix and flips and, buy and hold. So their deals aren't any good. So you got to get the ones that are kind of newer into the game and kind of, you kind of got to get them on the side, like, hey, like, this is the deal. Makes sense. I know you're only going to make 5. It's like, but hey, we could get you volume. That's the play. I mean, no one likes to say that shit, but I'm saying that shit because that's the truth. Everyone wants 15, 20K licks that everyone's seeing online, and those numbers don't pencil out, So a lot of our stuff anymore, a lot of the properties that we bought anymore, we have so our minimum is like 350.
Okay.
Harder to pencil out. Property taxes went up, insurance went up,
Interest rates are up.
And interest rates, everyone says, oh, they're coming down. No, they actually went up.
They went up. They're at 7 right now.
So
yep, they went up.
So you gotta kind of bob and weave in this market. Yes, they might go down. We'll see what goes on, but you got to be able to adjust. And there's still deals out there. They're just gonna take a little bit longer to get, but you can't just buy a deal to look cool or just marginal deals. Like, we're not doing that over here, So for right now, our active income is probably more than the rentals that we're buying, but that's okay. The market's going to turn around. We're trying some new different things in our marketing channels, but we're not just throwing money out, seeing what's going to stick. That's not cool. That's not good. Not good to do that. So, but that's what we're up to, man. We haven't seen. Love you all, the wholesalers. Love you, but your numbers aren't penciling out. So we gotta have some conversations.
But you guys stumbled into a great situation, because Columbus before wasn't like a big return market, and now Columbus, to me, I feel like is going up to where you're actually going to get a return on a Midwest market. To where I always tell people, don't buy for cash flow, buy for some cash flow, but you want appreciation, because that's where you're going to make all your money.
Yeah. Those markets. So that's like a lot of the stuff on the west side, and these neighborhoods where they're like C type markets. When we got our start, we did a lot of that, and it cash flowed. Our private money was super expensive back then, and now we can sell those at make a good rip, and then kind of take that money and go into some better neighborhoods, more in like the B class right before you get to the suburbs. The suburbs, though, aren't penciling out. We very rarely have properties in the suburbs. I mean, and then the whole Airbnb thing, that ain't Ohio.
Yeah, Terry, talk to me about that, bro.
That ain't happening, dude. That ain't happening in Ohio. I see a lot of people going and just turning them into, hopefully they bought it right, they turn it into midterm or long-term rentals. But that ain't a thing in Ohio unless it's on the water and you already have an established brand with, like, what do you call those houses? Tiny homes, or the containers that they're turning into some crazy shit. Like, that takes some time to build your brand, though, for Airbnb. And if you got it, those things make a lot of money. But if you're just starting out, I don't recommend that unless you got some unique niche that's unique to you and you can weather out the storm. But make sure you're buying it right so that you can rent it out long term or midterm. You know what I mean? So,
Dean, I know I'm hogging all the questions. Do you have any questions?
No, that's all right. I like to nerd out and get into some of the tech stuff. So what are some of the best tools that you have in your business right now that you just love to talk about and work with and all that kind of stuff?
And so the last, before I went to the last family mastermind, I just saw something where it, like everything was in one space, like you got your buyers, your like investor lift. There's investor base. Investor base is a great tool, by the way. Those guys are amazing. But what I saw was all in one spot, and I'm trying to get my hands on that. I've got to talk to some guy named Don about that. But I think that could really help. I really like what Investor Base has done for us, because it's allowed us to take a look at some of these older, or these like tertiary markets like Toledo and Akron and Canton, and take a good look at that and see what's going on from some other guys that have been in that market, because everyone knows about Columbus. Everyone knows Columbus and Dayton and Cincinnati, right? And these are our main markets. Yeah. We've got rentals there, and it's hard for deals to pencil out. So we're looking at these like other markets, and now we can see the data on what buy and hold investors are buying, and what their portfolio looks like. So you kind of peek and kind of look at successful investors in there. So success leaves clues, right? So it's like, all right, so if I'm going to do this deal here, probably makes more sense if I can turn this and just flip it to that fix and flipper who bought it, or I can, buy and hold it at this price, because that's what that buy and hold buyer bought it at. So, so I like that tool. You guys have heard of Investor Base?
Yep.
Amazing. And then, for our like projects from start to finish, we like Monday. You guys heard of Monday? It's like a project.
Yeah.
Tool. So we're heavily into that. And then, obviously we've had the older version of Podio, Investor Fuse.
Yep.
Still working. We haven't upgraded it to whatever the level is. Just don't need it.
4 versions later.
Yeah. Like, whatever it is now, it's crazy now. So we don't like to kind of take on something new if it's not broken, and so our reps like it, and I can go in there and navigate, pull up calls, listen to them if I want to, or take on some calls if I want to. So I know how to use it. So everyone knows about that, though. I think we're heavily, I was telling you, I use Safari, but we use a lot of Google Chats. We don't use Slack.
So you don't use Slack? How is Google Chats? Because I feel like I pay too much money for Slack, and you don't, and I already have so much stuff in Google. You might as well just throw it into Google Chats and then use like the Google calls instead of Zoom. You just keep it all in one place. You have Google Sheets and everything else.
Yeah, it's there. I like it. It's simple. Team uses it. There's stuff flying around all the time. I can check in on stuff. They know how to ping me, and it works. Super simple. If I wanted to share a doc, I just go right there. It's, if we want to quickly hop on a meeting, you can do this right here, and share a screen. It's got it all. So we're heavily on Google, and it's working.
Are you self-managing your portfolio?
Internally, we brought it back. Yeah, we're internal, and then third party, and it just ran into a bunch of third party just nightmares. And I think now,
tell me about those nightmares, because I never hear good things.
No, if you don't have someone that, I guess, at least has some of their own rentals and understands the rental business, like has some rentals in the business, and they're
in the portfolio that they're managing.
Yeah, like I wouldn't don't even do that. And then it's just it's a matter of like looking at your third party arrangement. If they're taking so many fees out, it's just not going to work. We already, we're talking about like all the things that could happen. You got freaking AC, windows, roof, especially in single family. There's so many things that could go wrong in a single family. It's a house, windows, like AC, all this shit. Like you're going to have, any of those things break, it's 4,000 to 5,000, maybe even 7 or 8K, depending on where you are. And these things are only cash flowing 300 to 400 a month, maybe 500 if you pencil it out. It was an amazing deal.
Have you looked at how many of your like actual rentals are losers?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We sold 54 of them this year.
Because of like the CapEx stuff that happens. Like, bro, these things are all fucking dogs. We've lost money on them. We might as well just capture the equity, come back up again, and then we can redeploy it somewhere else.
And that's the beauty of single family. Even duplexes are like that too, though. Three units, 4 units, they're a little easier. But once you start getting into like bigger 20, 30, 40, 50 units, a little tougher, right? So to sell them off like that, like quick. But yeah, we've pruned a lot this year for sure. And you got to look at your P&Ls and pay attention to that stuff and see which ones is it time? Do we want to hang on to it a little bit? Maybe if some of the other rentals can keep it afloat until it's time, but okay. Yeah, sometimes it happens like that. And you got to be able to be like, it plays with your ego a little bit. Definitely. You're like, oh, I got money in my units and I'm the king of the dipshits and whatever. It's like, okay, no, man, you got to be a business owner and look at your P&Ls and make right decisions and do what you got to do, So I think we were talking about earlier in this call, like you got to have some sort of active income, right? You got to. And whether it's coming from flips or maybe something else, you got to keep that. So
Dino has to go to soccer practice. RJ, you got like 15 more minutes. I want to ask you a bunch more questions.
Let's go. I got time here pretty soon. You get the soccer practice.
Dean. I'll see you guys soon. Yeah, no, it's not for me, even though I want it to be. It's for one of my boys. So I'm sorry.
I didn't know your nickname was Captain America, so now I know.
Now you know, man.
We'll see you.
That's right. Well, you're in the presence of the captain of nicknames, which is Strat Daddy up there. So you've been blessed with the most sexiest Filipino. So that's gonna stick with you forever now.
RJ Pepino, the sexiest Filipino. It has to rhyme. It has to rhyme.
My boy Kong was here. He'd be joking because he's like, "That is it, dude. That's your thing." I'm King Kong. You're the sexiest Filipino. I'm like, all right, dude.
All right, guys.
Man,
I'll catch up with you guys soon.
See you, Dean. Good talking to you.
All right, bro. So and these are just all questions. I'm not texting. I'm just writing down questions for you. So out of the 300 units, how much of it, like, how did you get over that ego? Because it's such a big deal to like, I have all these assets.
Yeah.
I don't want to sell, because like you look at it and you kind of put yourself in a box. Like, hey, I'm in a cash position. I don't want to sell. And then you hop on a phone call with a mentor. It's like, bro, you own a decent amount of property. Fucking sell some. Make your life easier.
Yeah.
Like, how did you like get over that? Because it's a lot.
Well, luckily that we have mentors, and I can call them and then they're going to ask you some really tough questions. And like, have you looked at your P&L lately and which ones are the dogs, and having tough conversations because, when you have a partner, you got to have tough conversations. And it's like, look, we gotta pony up for this bill that came up. This is what happened. We got a surprise. Yes, the net worth goes down a little bit, but ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, there's always going to be another house to buy. There's always going to be somebody that needs your service, that got into some fun, whatever happened, and their shit didn't get their shit together, and they need to sell your house. There's always going to be another property. That doesn't matter, like interest rates or what's going on in the market. There's always going to be a way to make things work, and that realization came very recently, like within the last 3 years. And it's like, just stop, making these, like, you have these like notions of like, what's going to happen to me and da, 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 da. Like, no, there's nothing going to happen to you. It's okay. You're still gonna find another deal. There's always another, property to buy. The world's abundant, but when you like, I worked really hard. That's
exactly. I worked really hard to fucking get here. I worked really hard to buy these bitches. I can fucking figure it out.
I don't know what it is. It's like that. It's okay. So Dave calls this the badge of honor. Carrying this badge of honor around. What you're really doing is you're stealing from your freaking happiness, man. You're stealing because you got this point. Like fake persona that's going on. No one really gives a shit out there. You know, like you could have all these accolades, but all what people really want to know is what can you do for me? You know, and so all of these things that we had to kind of overcome, all of these lessons that we had to learn from owning all these properties and doing all these flips and having a big business at one point and scaling back, that's all lessons we can share, you know, because that's what we're doing in our community is like really pouring into our community and letting them know, like, you can do this. Here's the right way to do this. Here's the wrong way to do that. So I'm happy to have those experiences because it just makes me a better, business owner, rental property owner, whatever, But that was it was just a mindset shift. I was sitting in a room with some other guys that had all these rentals. Some of them also had other kind of side stuff going on. And they were like, have you looked at, your P&Ls on your rentals? Bro, you know that you could just sell that and get into something that's going to return a lot better. And sometimes a flip is a lot better than that rental property for that time in your ownership of the property. So you got to pay attention to numbers. And, you and I both had the same mentors. They talk about that, but then it like hits home when you actually do that. You go through that exercise, like, oh shit, yeah, that one's been a loser for the last 8 months. Why am I holding on to that thing?
Exactly.
Sell it.
What does that cash? How long did it take you to get to 300 units?
A long time. So, I mean, we started buying. We had a small little rental portfolio, like 60 units, and then we had a bigger portfolio that we took down. It's the biggest deal that we've ever done. And but we started accumulating back in 13. That was like 400 or so, big portfolio.
How did you finance that?
That was half hard money. We had to raise 16 million. Half of that was, or 80% of that was hard money, and then the rest was private lenders. And so that was like a difficult deal.
That's a lot of money in private lenders, like out of nowhere, though.
Yeah, it was more or less like a little fund, that came together from a network where we were involved in. Grateful for them, and that was the craziest deal, most difficult deal. A lot of lessons learned in that, but it was a combination of the two. So, big lender out in California, Anchor. So, excuse me, that was wild to get that deal through to the finish line. A lot of ups and downs in that. But a lot of it was small multifamily, and then a huge chunk of it was single families.
How long did it take you to refi out of that hard money? That's the number one thing that I'm thinking about. If I did something like that, it's like day one. I know you're probably not cash flowing because I looked at a $10 million portfolio at the beginning of the year, and it was like a bunch of dogs. And I was like, I could structure this like the same way, a big thing of hard money. We could raise some private money, but it's going to be like a break even. So I'm probably losing money day one, and I'm going to have to turn around a bunch of shit. So like, what did that look like?
It's a lot of hard work. We're still going through it today. And it's not too far from us. It's up north, about 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Different partners involved in that. One is way more active than we are, but it's coordinating a lot of construction, working a lot with the in-house property manager up there. It's a lot of work, guys. It's not you sit back and the management does it all for you. That's not the case. So a lot of active at first, and when I was telling you we were going to sell a big chunk of that, we're going through the process now of doing that. But it's a lot of phone calls with partners and capital partners and, bank financing and just a lot of moving parts, man. It's a tough deal. What
were the terms on the debt?
Largest deals and the toughest deal that Dave and I have ever done. The terms, I mean, we've had, there was a number of extensions we've had to, do because it was a lot of vacancies. We bought and we didn't have the right manager, so we had to encounter a bunch of these residents who, this is weird, but a lot of them were on CMHA or Section 8, but we had no idea how they even passed. So there was a lot of like tough rehabs to do when we didn't even know how they passed, because the previous owner had a really good relationship with the
the Section 8 person.
Yes.
And just got shit fucking slid through.
Well, with that's
wild.
county. And so when we got it, we're like, yeah, so this thing passed Section 8, right? And tenants cleaned up and all that. And then when we go back there after the fact, after the deal, it just went to shit. It's like literally overnight. It's like, I don't even know how this thing passed. So we had to deal with a lot of that. But there was also some in the portfolio that had, some multifamily buildings that we were able to refinance out of that. But that's a tough deal. Biggest deal I've ever done. Toughest deal we've ever done. So
when I looked at it, I was like, I'm not doing this for anything less than $2 million. It's like what me and my partner said. Like, if we do this, we take this down, this is going to be a 3 to 4 year project, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we want at least $2 million out of it.
This is the portfolio you're talking about? The one?
Yeah, this is a portfolio that we were looking at. And it was like he was a fucking slumlord. It was a mobile home park. It was some small multis. The biggest one was like a 16. And we were really thinking about doing it. We want a storage facility up there. But then we couldn't make the numbers pass at like the 2 million. And now from what you're telling me makes me so glad I didn't do it. Because even if I would have penciled in 2 million, I probably would have walked away with like 500 grand.
Yeah. So sometimes the best thing to do is just say no and walk out. And that's okay. You know what I mean? And maybe you lose some earnest money or whatever, but it's better than you having to put into the deal. And then
exactly,
so, but yeah, that's a crazy ride, man. We're still in it. I think it'll probably be like we're in the final stages of that kind of thing. So probably next couple months, hopefully before the new year. We're into November.
Biggest lesson from that overall?
Well, one of the biggest lessons is just, you gotta, when you get involved in some bigger deals, you gotta look at who's gonna get involved. So we had 2 other partners, great guys, and sometimes it just makes sense not to do deals with certain partners when you don't really need to, or you take on something on that big at the wrong time. Just because you're ambitious doesn't mean that you should do it, right? There's a lot of things going on in our personal lives. Like, we probably shouldn't have done that deal. It just wasn't the right timing,
Okay.
And it's okay, like, to say no to that. And so a lot of it too was the whole thing about in-house third-party management lesson. And is it better to do third party? No, it's, if you do something on that big, you need to have some in-house property management and more boots on the ground over there. That's a big lesson. And then also too, from on the front end, having probably a little bit more in-depth inspections. I'm talking about those Section 8 properties, because a lot of them was like Section 8, and dealing with the county and really going in more due diligence.
Bringing the county with you and be like, hey, did this pass?
Yeah, like yeah. So it's like just being a little bit more, paying attention more to that, and seeing how it really passed. Maybe asking more on, when's the last inspection? Can we see it? Can we see like what were the items that may have been missed and going through? So, but at the time we were like, man, this is a amazing deal at what, 30-ish a door, and there was all these units, and we're like, I think that even if we have these, we can still make it up. That's you pushing a deal.
That's what you said.
Yeah. I remember. So big lesson. But glad I went through it, because it makes me a better investor for the next one that's going to come up, so.
So that was your biggest lesson from that. Mm-hmm. The third party management. What was my other question? How did you have those conversations with those? Did you buy out the other partners in it, or are they still in it?
They're going to be taking it over. So we're going to be getting bought out. So, and that's fine. It's one of those like, hey, cool.
Fuck it. Like, we're out.
Good. It's all good. There's always going to be another real estate deal. There's always going to be another, unit, portfolio, whatever it is. It's always going to come around, and because that's what it is. Like you do the work, you put out the marketing, you have the conversations with brokers, it's always going to come. Be okay with saying no to deals. Think of what you're getting involved in and where you are in your life to be taking this on. That's a big part of it. And just know that the time commitment that you think it's going to take, double that, because it's going to be hard. It's not as easy as everyone talks about. But I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to understand that now, You can't take that. It's that experience.
All right. Last thing, we'll address this little comment. S&P is returning 10% a year. Without any tenants, the real estate market is only returning 4% net of fees and taxes. What are your thoughts? Real estate is not as passive as one makes it seem. So last part is very true. I'd say that S&P will return 7 to 8% a year. 10% is a very strong year if you bought some fucking NVIDIA. Then I would say with no tenants and everything else. But at the same time, if you take that $1 million and you're an experienced operator, and this is like, let's say if you're in the game of real estate and you're RJ and you actually burr out of that, you get an infinite return if you put that $1 million to work the right way, or you're getting a 90% return over a couple years if you do it properly. I would always say if you're like trying to invest your money, real estate is the best way because you get the tax benefits.
Key thing, yeah.
Right, which I think is the key thing. If you're investing money, you should have a tax problem. If you are investing money, you don't have a tax problem. You should probably be investing your money into yourself, so you do have a tax problem.
Right.
It's just the way I think about it.
Your active income isn't there yet, right? So
yeah.
It's a no-brainer. Like real estate has all the other benefits outside of the cash flow and appreciation. Get all the tax benefits. You can use leverage. Your tenants are paying down your mortgage and creating your equity in the deal, and then 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to be happy if your intent was to just hang on to it and then maybe realize or capture that equity, which S&P, it's 10%, but it's also highly volatile. I mean, there's times where it goes down pretty. Did you read something I think it was last week, crash. It's like always crashing. That's like the real crash.
Yes.
S&P will, and I have a little bit involved in there, but not as much. I think it's like a buy and hold play. You got to weather the storm when you have your
but
money.
Nobody weathers the storm, bro, is the thing. Everybody thinks they're a fucking genius. Warren Buffett doesn't weather the storm. Nobody weathers the storm.
Yeah, man, it's got, I don't know. I never invested too heavily in the stock market. Did you?
No, I did some stuff in crypto. I've invested in all sorts of things. I'd say mostly I invest in businesses that I own because I know I can get the best return on capital there.
Yeah.
Like I can always get the best return on capital either in myself or in a company that I own. I don't ever invest in anybody else's deals because I know I can just make better money with myself and I don't have gobbles and gobbles and gobbles laying around to where it's not that big of a deal for me. But if you got like $1 million cash laying around, even if you gave that to a syndicator, it would probably outperform the S&P if you gave it to a good one.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got to go like how we talked about earlier when RJ said like there's dudes who had funds and people are chasing them down for money now.
You got
to look out for that. Make sure you interview the securities attorney and everything else. But that's just that. Any parting words, Mr. Pepino?
I had a really good
Filipino
time, brother. I had a good time. What is your nickname on here? Is it
Strat Daddy?
Strat Daddy.
Strat Daddy.
I had a good time, man. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for asking those questions. Hopefully they got a lot of value out of that. And, if you want me to hop on again or whatever, let me know.
Hell yeah, bro.
We have one that we're going to, we do have a podcast and we'll reach out. Maybe we can get both of you or maybe one of you, but I had an awesome time, man. Thank you.
I love it, bro. Thank you so much for coming on and dropping so much knowledge.
All right.
All right, guys. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And RJ, where can people find out more about you?
They can text me. They see my name. I'm on IG. There's my number. Shoot me a text. Let me know how I can help you. I'm at RJ Pepino. You can text me at 614-810-4622. Friend me. I'm the one answering my DMs, so let's connect. Let me know how I can help you.
I love it. Thank you guys. Talk to you soon.